Some breaking news, they have just released the latest details of Trump's cognitive test.
Join us again next time for more cognitive results from Diaper Dawn.
I'm never sure whether fear is something losers use to try and stop those that would be their competitors from taking part in the race. Because it's something clearly that a lot of the Trumpy Trumps are painting, almost in terms of if their guy doesn't get back in, how much of a disaster things will be. The level of intimidation, the level of threat is really being just turned up a notch. It was a little bit, I know, Eric Swalwell and the former chairman of the Republican Party, Michael Steele, were just talking about the threat and the real toxic environment which Trump and co are pushing out there. They're using it as a weapon. It's almost like if they could stop you voting, they possibly would, unless you're voting for them. That's just how I see it. I'm an outsider looking in, but hey.
Unity has to be, the antidote. That means Republicans and Democrats have to condemn it. And we have to say, that we pick our leaders and we choose our policies by voting and not by violence. Second, we have to fund at the federal and state and local level, aggressive prosecutions to make sure that, we're deterring this and holding accountable folks when they do this. And then as Democrats, I think and even, independents and reasonable Republicans, we have to say this is an effort, to use process over policy. Donald Trump and his MAGA gang, they don't want to talk about policy. No. So they're going to grind this out and take us deep into the weeds, over process. So, they're going to argue over, and not just argue over, they're going to intimidate the people involved in the process because they're completely bankrupt when it comes to the policy. So I'd say, unity and condemnation, funding the efforts to stop it, and then as Democrats on the messaging, don't get stuck in the process because we win on policy.
Yeah. One of the things,
we're still a country that's armed to the teeth, right? The most dangerous people have access to the most dangerous weapons in this country. The violent rhetoric, as we saw, just yesterday from the former president's, truth account, where he's glorifying violence, continues to go up. And one part of this that really concerns me is that the Department of Justice, who is charged with investigating these threats, they are overwhelmed because the investigators are being threatened. So the people who would be typically investigating someone who's threatening an elected official, or a poll worker, that FBI official, that U.S. attorney is also being threatened. So this is just an attempt, as I said, to overwhelm the system, and that makes me very nervous 7 months out.
So set against that backdrop, you have former President Trump attending the funeral of a slain NYPD officer, using that tragedy to make a case about crime, when in reality, crime in New York City is actually down. Interesting that he cares about crime in a very specific context when he believes it can be weaponized for means of fear, when he was not concerned about crime on January 6th, when he was not concerned about the lives of police officers who lost their lives or were irreparably changed on January 6th. It is only through this one lens that he wants to talk about crime and our men and women in uniform.
And by the way, he did not go to the wake of Officer Sicknick. No. He did not offer condolences to his family. So that showboating at that wake in New York was unfortunate. But again, it goes to Alicia's point of how it's all weaponized.
It's all weaponized. And I think as Democrats, I say this as a brother to two police officers and the son of a cop. We have to pierce, through this because, Donald Trump will very cheaply, use police officers, when it benefits him.
Right.
But again, when police officers raid his house, he now is a part of the effort to want to defund their efforts. And so it poses a challenge for us. But I do think that, we need to tell the police, we back the blue, he backs the coup. He will back police officers as long as they're backing him. And so when it comes to funding public safety, we have consistently tried to put up money, for community policing. They have voted against it. When it comes to the union protections that police officers have, we continue to back that, and he would never afford that to him. It's not easy, but if we can earn back a little bit of the trust of law enforcement, that'd be great. That's why I'm all in and helping Harry Dunn, who's running for Congress. We need more police officers in our ranks. We lost Val Demings when she ran for the Senate, and I don't think it hurts us, to earn the trust of law enforcement.
Congressman, why do you think the narrative?
I think a weakness is that sometimes we can't distinguish the signal and the noise. And so you hear a little bit of noise, from those on the farthest left, who would want to defund the police or have like a completely open border. And then we get cautious and think, well, we don't want to upset them. Well, they don't reflect where most Americans are who believe that, they can be safe in their community, that you can have criminal justice reforms that make sure, especially that the black community who's traditionally suffered under some policing policies are treated the same. We can do all of that. We don't have to choose one or the other, but sometimes we're afraid of our own shadow, and we can't do that because that's not where the American people are, and I think we should be proud.
One other thing that I would say, by the way, and this is quite important, the Dems have really, and a lot of people who react, have got to get above it. Trump loves being talked about. He wants to say something notorious, something controversial. So, for example, Easter Saturday, he's posting pictures of Judge Merchant's daughter, just because he knows it is pushing the nail, getting really, really close, and people will react. All Trump is going on is being controversial and getting headlines. There is two ways that this can be stopped. First of all, well, three ways actually. The Dems need to stick to their path. They need to stop the reacting, because what people don't realise, if he says something controversial on social media, the more people that measure it, mention it by the way, the more it's measured by what is called the algorithm, and you get my point. It's pushed out there. Trump's worst nightmare is to be ignored, is for nobody to react. He needs the attention. That's where they go. As long as you spell the name right and you're talking about him, you have to understand, for his MAGA base, yeah, and it's the lowest common denominator that he goes for, it doesn't matter how much fact-checking is there until we get to some live debate where the MAGA audience will see him without all the editing, without all the bullshit PR to put him up. You've got to understand one thing. He is playing a game of being notorious. That being said, he has a very thin skin, so they should just roll the jokes out thick and fast. And by the way, somebody should doorstep Melania. Ask her what she thinks.